This is East Asia Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Otelli Edwards. Tonight's top stories from East Asia. Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq is in Beijing to meet with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, with security cooperation expected on the agenda after the recent clash with India. Taiwan leader William Lai marks a year in office, highlighting the need for peace and dialogue with Beijing, while maintaining that preparation for a conflict is the best way to avoid one. Shares of Chinese battery maker CATL surge in its Hong Kong trading debut in what is the world's largest initial public offering this year. And China trims its benchmark lending rate as part of a package of stimulus measures to boost sagging consumption.
Tariff policies continue to shift, so we are very cautiously watching the latest situation and assess the impact on our supply chain.
Taiwan's technology. CNA's Victoria Jen speaks with Samson Hu, co-CEO of Taiwanese PC maker ASUS, on how the company is navigating global trade tensions. Pakistan's foreign minister is in China to meet his counterpart Wang Yi to discuss the regional situation in South Asia. Well, Ishaq's visit comes a week after Islamabad reached a ceasefire with New Delhi. Both Pakistan and India now on a diplomatic push to make their case to the allies. Well, earlier today, Mr. Da met with Liu Jianchao, head of the international department at China's Communist Party. China is one of Pakistan's biggest allies, giving financial lifelines and supplying arms. Now, Pakistan used Chinese fighter jets in its recent clashes with India. Mr. Da even revealing that he kept Pakistan's Chinese ambassador up to date on the aerial combat into the wee hours of the night. Beijing has said it is ready to play a constructive role in achieving a lasting ceasefire. For more on this, Hira Mustafa, she joins us live now from Islamabad. Hira, no coincidence there with India and Pakistan's diplomatic pushes, Islamabad choosing China as its first stop. What can we read into this?
Well, absolutely. This visit of Foreign Minister Ishaq comes at a time when both Pakistan and India are planning to send their respective delegations to the countries across the world to highlight their stance amid the recent military standoff between India and Pakistan. So experts here in the capital believe that viewing that China is a major strategic ally of Pakistan. So in this context, it was imperative for Islamabad to visit Beijing first, as China stood firm with Pakistan when tensions were running high between India and Pakistan in the past couple of weeks. In terms of what both sides are expecting to achieve from these bilateral talks is that Pakistan and China both are keen to expand their trade to Central Asian republics through Gavada port, which is in the southwestern province of the country. But unfortunately, that goal hasn't been achieved, as the southwestern province of the country is facing deteriorating security, as Pakistan blames that Afghanistan is the one that is hosting terror groups operating from its territory, targeting Chinese nationals and projects in Pakistan. So experts believe that security is something which is going to dominate the discussions between the foreign ministers of both the countries, Ishaq and Wang Yi. Apart from that, these bilateral talks are followed by the trilateral dialogue, in which Afghanistan is also going to participate, and Afghan's Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi is going to be in Beijing to hold these discussions with Pakistan and Chinese counterparts. And in those discussions, of course, not only the security situation on Pakistan's western border is going to be discussed, but also the security situation on the eastern border of Pakistan is going to be discussed, which neighbors India, of course. business. So this is what we are hearing from the officials, that defense cooperation, including the security cooperation, especially the challenges both China and Pakistan are facing in terms of securing the Chinese interest in Pakistan, as Pakistan is home to significant Chinese investments, and China has invested $62 billion in China-Pakistan economic corridor projects.
So here, aside from security and defense issues, what other announcements can we expect from the foreign ministers' talk? Has the recent clash with India, for instance, affected the way Pakistanis view relations with China?
Well, absolutely. In terms of announcements, experts here are saying that as the Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar visit is also a part of a trilateral dialogue, so experts believe that an announcement could be followed after this trilateral dialogue between Pakistan, Afghanistan and China to look forward to a strategy that how the three countries are going to work on strengthening the security apparatus across the western borders of the country, as Islamabad blames that Afghanistan is behind the terror attacks that are happening at the western front of the country, a charge which definitely Kabul denies. Other than this, weapon diplomacy is something which is going to dominate the discussions ever since Pakistan has used Chinese fighter jets J-10C and JF-17 in the latest, in the recent military combat between India and Pakistan, which we saw in the past couple of weeks. So this is something which experts believe that is going to dominate the discussions, and they also believe that in the coming days, pacts could be signed, in defense pacts could be signed between China and Pakistan. And overall, in this whole scenario, Pakistanis view this the relationship between Beijing and Islamabad in a very positive momentum, given the fact that how China was standing firm with Pakistan in testing times when the tensions were running high between New Delhi and Islamabad.
Right, so quite a few announcements we can expect in the coming days. Thanks so very much. Shira Mustafa reporting to us live from Islamabad. Now, the world's largest electric vehicle battery maker, contemporary Amperex technology company, or CATL, saw its shares soar more than 16% after it launched the world's largest IPO this year in Hong Kong. Well, the Chinese firm aims to raise at least $4 billion, offering almost 118 million new shares at about $34 per share. But its price jumped to almost $40. CNA's Mei Wong has this report.
A big boost for CATL's fundraising and a major lift for Hong Kong's stock exchange. This highly anticipated IPO finally made its debut in Hong Kong since it announced plans to list in the city last December.
非常荣幸能与大家共同见证宁德时代的港股上市。感谢中国证监会、香港证监会、香港联交所各中介机构以及各位领导在公司上市过程中给予的大力支持。港股上市意味着我们更加广泛地融入了全球资本市场，也是我们推动全球零碳经济的新起点。宁德时代不只是一家电池零部件制造商，也是系统解决方案的提供者，更致力于成为一家零碳科技公司。
However, it also comes just months after the U.S. Defense Department added CATL to its blacklist, accusing the company of having links to China's military. The company has denied the association and calls the Pentagon designation a mistake. CATL, already listed in Shenzhen, has 13 battery manufacturing bases globally. The company plans to use the IPO funds raised for the construction of its EV battery production factory in Hungary. This listing has certainly helped put Hong Kong on the global IPO leaderboard.
作为今年以来全球最大型的新股集资个案，宁德时代成功吸引了全球市场的注意力，也成为全球投资者的聚焦点。我热烈祝贺曾董事长和您的团队 在香港取得的骄人成绩。零的时代今天在香港交易所上市，在2个层面有重要的意义。第一呢，是它反映了企业和投资者对香港股票市场的信心。
Today's listing is another illustration of the strength and the resilience of our market. We all know that there is a lot of volatility in the macro environment. That said, repeatedly we are able to support the growth strategies of a lot of these very exciting technology companies and beyond. And I think today's listing is an illustration of that.
But at least one analyst says the Hong Kong exchange must continue the positive momentum and prove that the CATL is not a one-off listing.
I think it is a very positive signal for Hong Kong to welcome companies with a more diversified industry composition, especially in some of the new growth sector. So I think CATL is definitely a very good landmark case. But having said that, we also need to be aware of what will happen after that, because if it is really only one single company that drives the momentum, and if there's not like any trend that would follow in terms of boosting market sentiment, then it means that it is still pretty much one-off listing.
The Hong Kong government had said previously that at least 100 major companies are waiting to list on the city's exchange. Last year, the amount of total IPO funds raised in Hong Kong was about $10 billion.
In the first quarter of this year, Hong Kong recorded 17 new IPO listings, which raised more than $2 billion. Now, that amount of funds raised was almost 4 times that compared to the same period of last year. And authorities here believe that with the uneasy trade tensions between the US and China, that could in fact present an opportunity for the city, as it could encourage more Chinese firms to look at Hong Kong for more stock offerings.
May Wong, CNA, Hong Kong.
And for more of our coverage on battery maker CATL, do log on to cna.asia for some background on its risk-taking leader. Coming up next on East Asia Tonight, Honda tapping the brakes for electric vehicle manufacturing. And Apple supplier Foxconn dialing up its investment into manufacturing in India. Hello again. You're watching East Asia Tonight right here on CNA. We've got Roland Lim standing by with the very latest in business news. So, Roland, I believe we've got more details out of Computex on AI data centers today.
Right, you are. Both Foxconn, ASUS revealing more about their strategy on AI and how they're navigating the current tariff turmoil. The world's largest contract electronics manufacturer, Foxconn, on how it'll build an AI data center with NVIDIA in Taiwan. Now, NVIDIA's CEO says at the Computex Tech Show that the project will greatly increase the availability of AI computing and bolster local researchers as well as businesses.
Yesterday, we announced that we're going to build an AI factory for you to use, for me to use, and for Taiwan, the entire ecosystem to use.
Yes.
And so now Foxconn is going to be a world-class regional cloud provider, AI cloud provider.
This is the very first NCP AI data center. And this AI data center is targeted to have 100 megawatt of power.
100 megawatts of power, that's enough to power around 80,000 homes for a year. Now, given that the AI data center will require significant power, it will be developed in phases. Some of the center will be in the city of Kaohsiung, as well as others that could be in other Taiwanese cities, depending on power availability. Despite the excitement, Taiwan's tech industry is navigating rising global trade tensions. Now, on the sidelines of Computex 2025, top PC maker ASUS co-CEO Samson Hu spoke with CNA's Victoria Jen on the company that is tracking the situation with caution.
With global trade tensions and also tariffs, how is ASUS adjusting its supply chain and also its manufacturing?
The recent U.S.-China trade deal announcement is a positive development. And so we are somewhat confident about the future of global trade stability. However, tariff policies continue to shift. So we are very cautiously watching the latest situation and assess the impact on our supply chain. And we make proactive adjustments to stay competitive. Yes, and I think the most importantly, we focus on our long-term goal and build resilience into our supply chain so that we can respond to whatever changes of tariff policies and the market demand.
Now, based on what you know, how is Taiwan's technology industry coping with the U.S. tariffs and the push to diversify production?
While the global tech landscape is evolving, I think Taiwan's role in tech ecosystem remains strong, especially in areas like AI and the semiconductor. Taiwan's tech sector is known for its ability to always innovate and adapt. And at ASUS, our diversified manufacturing footprint, global reach of market, as well as our core competence of innovation are part of our long-term strategy to stay competitive, while we are committed to contributing to the Taiwan tech ecosystem.
And how are you bringing AI into your main products, and what does it mean for ASUS transformation?
While AI is a hot topic this year, in fact, ASUS has been working on AI for years. That's why we have been able to build the most complete and integrated AI ecosystem. Our goal is to bring AI to everyone, everywhere, from cloud to edge. We are empowering our customers with the most comprehensive wide range of AI hardware and software. For example, AI servers and platform software that supports large language model pre-training and inferencing workloads. And we have also cutting-edge AI devices, such like AI PC, a smartphone, mini PC, and ASUS exclusive AI applications. For example, StoryCube and AI Expert Meet, and a range of AIoT solutions for industry and healthcare.
Now, going forward, over the next few years, what's the biggest risk or opportunities for ASUS as well as Taiwan's technology industry as a whole?
This is a very good question. I think we won't be able to escape from the geopolitics and the uncertainty it brings to the international businesses like ASUS. However, we will continue to adapt by focusing on our strengths in R&D, innovation, and design. And at the same time, I think climate change remains a threat. But this is also a very good opportunity as it drives us to focus more on sustainable innovation. And I believe that AI will continue to present exciting opportunities as it evolves in such areas like generative AI, analytic AI, and agentic AI, and physical AI. This allows us to further enhance user experiences and create more innovative products.
One of Apple's key suppliers, Foxconn, is scaling up its investment in India as it shifts more manufacturing out of China. That's as US tariffs disrupt supply chains for the iPhone maker. Now, Foxconn is pouring in 1.5 billion rupees, that's about $17.5 million US, into its India unit. It's doing so by buying shares worth about that amount through its Singapore-based subsidiary into Yueshan Technology India. The Indian entity is Foxconn's unit in Tamil Nadu. Now, it manufactures electronic components and also assembles iPhones. Apple has been positioning India as an alternative manufacturing base. It has ramped up Indian production earlier in March, exporting around 600 tons of the iconic phone worth some $2 billion into the US. Honda Motor is scaling back its investment in electric vehicles, turning instead to capturing growing demand for hybrids. Now, that's as it sees demand slowing for pure EVs. Its planned investment into electrification and software now close to $50 billion, and that's down from close to $70 billion. The amount is through to 2030. Its CEO expects battery-powered cars to make up only 20% of sales by then, and it expects to sell up to 2.3 million hybrid vehicles by the same year. Honda is planning 13 next-generation hybrid models in the next 4 years from 2027. Japanese carmaker also developing a hybrid system for large-sized models. In a widely expected move, China's one-year loan prime rate, or LPR, was lowered by 10 basis points to 3%, while the five-year rate was cut to 3.5%. Most new and outstanding loans in China are based on the one-year LPR, while the five-year rate influences the pricing of mortgages. The policy steps comes as part of a package of stimulus measures to strengthen consumption. A quick check on the Chinese currency weakening a touch against the dollar, hovering just above that 7.20 level.
All right, and to talk more about the LPR cut and its impact, let's have Roland joining us at the desk. So, Roland, seems like it's a positive step, but some market watchers say that the move just wasn't aggressive enough. Why do you think they're saying that?
Well, three reasons. Size of the cut, 10 basis points. I mean, remember last year we had consistent cuts and over a certain period of time. So this is just incremental because it's the first cut in 7 months. It also reflects caution about the economy as well as banks' profitability, which brings me to my second point, which is that banks are in a tough spot because net lending margins, that's the amount of money that they make from lending versus the amount of money that they have to give back to depositors. Well, that is shrinking. It is currently at a low of 1.4% in first quarter for commercial banks, and that is also making profitability at banks at risk. Remember, state lenders still have to support the economy as well. So the third point, of course, is, Chinese consumption is still weak. That means that just because you bring down borrowing costs doesn't mean that people are going to borrow more money, especially when times are bad, economy is looking shaky, and your jobs might be at risk.
All right, and Roland, perhaps you can give us a little bit more context to that. Generally, how are the consumers and also businesses reacting to these incremental small steps that you're talking about?
Well, the response has been cautious. I mean, we just had a huge data dump. I mean, retail sales just came in at 5.1%. It might sound like a good growth, but actually it's below expectations and certainly below the previous month's expectations. So people are not spending as much as the government would like them to. The other thing is, of course, home prices. That makes people feel rich when their home prices are up. But home prices in China has flatlined for the past 2 years. So the confidence isn't there. So despite Beijing wanting to bring down borrowing costs, that actually hasn't resulted in a boost of confidence for the natives.
So it sounds like people are still tightening their purse strings there. Well, thanks so very much, Roland, for joining us this evening. We're going to go for a short break now, but coming up next on East Asia Tonight, Taiwan leader William Lai marks his first year in office. How well has he managed pressure from China, as well as shifting dynamics with the US? Well, we're going to be speaking with James Ifan Chen from the Tamkang University in Taiwan in just a moment. You're watching East Asia Tonight, and here are the headlines we've been following. Shares of Chinese battery giant CATL soar in its Hong Kong debut, raising billions of dollars in the world's largest initial public offering this year. The global leader produces a third of all EV batteries sold worldwide. The Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq is in Beijing to meet with Chinese officials, with security cooperation expected on the agenda after the recent clash with India. And Taiwan leader William Lai marks a year in office, highlighting the need for peace and dialogue with China, but says their government must continue to strengthen the island's defenses. President Lai has vowed to protect Taiwan's security and industries as the island navigates ongoing tariff negotiations with the U.S. and growing pressure from China. Well, he says that preparing for war is the best way to avoid it.
只要对等尊严，台湾很乐意跟中国进行交流合作，透过交流来取代围堵，透过对话来取代对抗，朝和平共荣的方向来发展。
China has been rebuffing Mr. Lai's Office of Talks, calling him a separatist. Beijing sees Taiwan as part of its territory and has not ruled out the use of force to achieve unification. Now, some residents in the mainland says that Mr. Lai's call for dialogue contradicts the One China principle.
这不是交流合作，你本来就属于中国呀，本来就属于中国呀，对吧？你本来就属于中国，我们就相当是一个，就是一个家庭呀，对不对？都是以家为主嘛，以国为主嘛。
至于很多历史问题，我觉得这个东西也不是一朝一夕说一代人就能解决的。这个我觉得大家慢慢来。其实你只要有一个更长期的沟通的过程，很多事情都有办法的。不要就是有激烈的冲突。
Well, Mr. Lai also has to navigate new U.S. tariffs of 32%, which have been put on pause. Well, part of the efforts include a $100 billion investment plan by leading semiconductor manufacturing firm TSMC. Mr. Lai is hailing investments in Taiwan from global tech heavyweights, including Advanced Micro Devices and NVIDIA. He says the government plans to establish a sovereign wealth fund to boost the tech-focused economy. For more insights, we are joined now by James Ifan Chen. He's assistant professor at Tam Kang University, Department of Diplomacy and International Relations. Well, thanks for joining us, Professor. Okay, so now first up, let's just talk about President Lai's approval rating. That has dipped. Disapproval now at 45.7%, according to one recent survey, which is the highest since he took office. That aside, Professor, can you just give us your report card on Mr. Lai's first year in office?
I think most of the major polls here in Taiwan are showing the same direction, that, Lai, his approval rate is declining gradually because, he did not, perform as we expect him to do. And then also that, because his ruling DPP is actually calling for the unseat and then mass recall movement, which is pretty divided for Taiwan's politics. So I think that's why, people in Taiwan are kind of have reservation on his performance in his first year in office.
Right. So, Mr. Lai, basically not living up to expectations. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on that? I mean, to talk about cross-strait tensions, for instance, that remains tense. Do you think part of it is got to do with how President Lai's approach to managing ties with Beijing has been?
Yes. So that's why, in this morning, during his remark to address the entire country, he did not mention much about China because he knows if he talked too much about China, especially in that kind of provocative way, then China may respond again with the military drill in the coming days. So today, he did not really mention about China in a forceful way. And this is actually, probably he has been told by some other friends from the international community, ask him not to, show this kind of stance to make cross-strait relations even more tense.
So, Mr. Lai, basically, he's held back talking about China, in this big anniversary speech. But overall, how do you think Beijing has has responded to President Lai's administration over the past year? And are we seeing some kind of a shift in the strategy, or is it more of the same in terms of how they exert their military pressure and diplomatic isolation on Taiwan?
From what we can see in the past year, Beijing's military action against Taiwan is getting a lot increase in terms of their maneuver. Also, they send their sorties, to fly around Taiwan, and their vessels sailing around Taiwan every day. So this creates the, image that, under Lai's administration, the cross-strait relation has, go from bad to worse, and now even worse. So this time, if Lai, he did not comment much on China during his anniversary remark, that means probably the United States, give him some pressure in advance, tell him not to do so. Or the other way is because, there is nothing new for Lai to say to the public here in Taiwan regarding to his cross-strait policy.
So, as this tensions increases with Beijing, I mean, all the more they're going to need to engage, their international partners. So let's talk about how effective President Lai has been in terms of trying to boost Taiwan's strategic relations with the U.S. as well as regional partners like Japan and South Korea.
I think, the U.S. is the strongest ally that Taiwan has in international community. But because, since the President Trump of the U.S. took office this January, his national security team has, been reshuffled a couple of times. And now I do not really see the, feasible way for the Lai administration to stay connected with the top level U.S. national security team, especially on the issues of Taiwan. And as we can see right now, U.S. seems to be more urgent to negotiate with a trade deal with China. So Taiwan is not yet on the radar of the U.S., strategic planning yet. I think, the Lai administration, they still have to spend much more work and doing a lot of, things to get connected with the U.S. administration.
What about its domestic economy,
in terms
though?
of,
domestic economy. Because how successful
so in terms
has
of,
he been
the relation to Japan.
Please go ahead, Professor.
In terms of the relations with Japan, and then I think, Lai's administration, they maintain a very good relations with Japan as usual. But right now, Japan's, LDP ruling party, especially as the Prime Minister, they are actually showing, two hands, strategy. They are at the same time negotiating with the U.S., but at the same time, they are sending their high-ranking officials or party officials to China to, make some kind of deal for the China, South Korea, and Japan free trade zone in the future. So I think, Taiwan should, try to find a way to coexist with China and then find a way to balance, its approach between the U.S. and China. And if Taiwan's relations with South Korea, I think, South Korea, because we are more in the competitive, gesture in terms of our economy development, a lot of industry are actually overlapping. So I think, Taiwan and South Korea, we do not specifically have any kind of, conflict in the political perspective. But it's also because the South Korea's, politics is getting a little bit, uncertain during the past few months. So that's why Taiwan and South Korea does not really have, any kind of substantial interactions.
So let's talk about the opposition KMT. They have intensified their criticism. They're staging all these public protests. Their latest survey basically branding Mr. Lai's first year a failure. How serious a challenge do you see the opposition to Mr. Lai's policy agenda, whether it's to do with national security or to do with China policy?
I think the opposition still have cast a lot of doubts on Lai's capability to doing the national security policy or cross-strait policy. When Lai Ching-te, he, in last year, at the same very day, May 20th, for his inauguration, he actually, the first time he mentioned about the PRC and the ROC are not subordinated to each other. So that caused, future military drills from the China side. When every time Lai Ching-te, he mentioned about the not subordinate to each other thing. So this time, this year, today, he did not mention about the not subordinate to each other thing. So I think the military, tension can be probably just, as daily patrol of the PRC's, vessels and warplanes around Taiwan, but not escalated to another tension. But at the same time, because Lai do it, he tried to talk peacefully to the outside world, make him like he has that kind of willingness to negotiate with China. But in domestic politics, he basically just shut all the doors for interactions with China. For example, as a professor, now we are kind of warned by the education minister not to bring your students or yourself to have any kind of academic exchange with China for your personal safety. And I don't think this is going to be very helpful for cross-strait relations.
Oh, thanks for sharing your personal insights there. It's been great talking to you. Appreciate that. Assistant Professor James Ifan Chen from Tamkang University. Now, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has reprimanded his agriculture minister for claiming that he never buys rice because he gets it free, provoking anger among consumers facing soaring prices. Tako Ito said that over the weekend that his supporters donate so much rice to him that he can practically sell them. Well, that hit a public nerve at a time when rice prices have doubled from a year ago. Mr. Ito has since apologized, saying his remarks angered even his wife, who does buy rice when the donations run out. Prime Minister Ishiba said the minister's remarks were extremely unfortunate. He said he felt responsible being the person who had appointed him. But despite calls for Mr. Ito to step down, Mr. Ishiba says he is keeping the farm minister in his role and expects solutions from him. Well, high rice prices in the lead-up to Japan's upper house elections spell danger for Mr. Ishiba's ruling party. His cabinet is battling record-low approval ratings amid the cost-of-living crisis. The Japanese government has been releasing rice from its emergency stockpiles in recent months, but it's done little to rein in prices. Many are hoping for a cut in the consumption tax, but Mr. Ishiba continues to dismiss the measure. Now, time for some headlines from media outlets in East Asia. Yonhap News reports that South Korean police are seeking an arrest warrant for a reporter behind a false report, alleging that nearly 100 Chinese spies were arrested at the country's election commission during the brief martial law decree imposed by ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol. Now, Radio Television Hong Kong says that the city's leader has defended its quick enactment of additional security laws after likening threats to a virus that can cause harm. The government enacted the subsidiary legislation last week, just a day after unveiling the proposal. Now, Foxconn's chairman says generative artificial intelligence can only handle 80% of the manufacturing workload in next-generation facilities. Nikkei Asia reports that it came as a surprise to Chairman Yang Liu, who thought that AI is capable of replacing every human. And for our latest East Asia-related stories, do log on to cna.asia or read them via our mobile app. China says it backs a dialogue between Russia and Ukraine and all efforts aimed at achieving peace. Well, that's after U.S. President Donald Trump said that the two would start peace talks immediately. Well, Mr. Trump has backed off his demand that Russia declare an immediate ceasefire. He instead endorsed Vladimir Putin's call for negotiations between Ukraine and Russia after a 2-hour phone call with the Russian leader. The U.S. leader says Russia agreed to immediately start direct talks with Ukraine, with conditions to be negotiated directly between the warring countries. Well, the Vatican was suggested as a possible venue.
I think something's going to happen. It's a got very big egos involved, I tell you. Big egos involved. But I think something's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'd just back away and they're going to have to keep going. Again, this was a European situation. It should have remained a European situation.
Mr. Putin, though, would only commit to working on a memorandum for a potential future peace deal.
Россия предложит и готова работать с украинской стороной над меморандумом по поводу возможного будущего мирного договора с определением ряда позиций, таких как, например, принципы урегулирования, сроки возможного заключения мирного соглашения и так далее, включая и возможное прекращения огня на определенное время в случае достижения соответствующих договоренностей.
Coming up, we look beyond East Asia yet again. Could Google's growing legal battles overshadow its annual developer conference? US authorities have charged Singaporean Malone Lam with heading up a 13-member crime ring that allegedly stole hundreds of millions of dollars of cryptocurrency. Well, the 20-year-old has already been charged with stealing cryptocurrency worth $230 million from one victim in Washington, D.C. Nick Harper has more.
Federal authorities allege the 13 suspects became friends via online gaming platforms, and it was from that friendship they developed a scheme that netted them $263 million, money that was stolen from cryptocurrency wallets, converted into dollars, and then laundered in a network that spread out across the United States. Central to that scheme was Malone Lam, a 20-year-old Singaporean national who was living in the US. He's already been charged with stealing 4,100 Bitcoin from a single victim, which at the time was worth over $230 million. He allegedly spent the money on nightclub visits, paying $500,000 per night, as well as buying at least 28 luxury cars, worth up to $3.8 million each, purchasing luxury clothing valued in the tens of thousands of dollars, and renting homes in wealthy neighborhoods in Los Angeles, the Hamptons and Miami. The new indictment, filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, alleges that Lam and another defendant, 21-year-old Connor Flansburgh, organised the alleged scheme to identify and target other crypto users. Federal prosecutors claim they stole $14 million from one victim, while they broke into another victim's home to steal their virtual currency wallet hardware. They then converted the stolen digital currency into cash, which they shipped out to the scheme's members, concealed inside Squishmallow stuffed animals. Authorities allege that after he was arrested last September, Malone Lam continued working with the members of the enterprise to pass and receive directions, and that was reportedly happening while Lam was being held in detention ahead of his trial this autumn. He even allegedly had some of the members of the ring buy luxury bags and hand-deliver them to his girlfriend in Miami. The 13 suspects, including Malone Lam, have been charged under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations, or RICO Act. On Monday, Lam appeared in a court in Washington, D.C., where he entered a plea of not guilty to the new superseding indictment. His lawyer, Scott Armstrong, has previously told CNA that Malone Lam looks forward to exercising his right to trial by jury in this case. That trial is scheduled to begin in October. If found guilty, Lam faces more than 20 years in prison, a fine of up to $250,000, or up to twice his gains from the alleged scams. Nick Harper, CNA, Washington.
For more of our coverage on this story, do log on to cna.asia or our mobile app. Google's annual developer conference kicks off today, and it's a chance for the tech giant to show off updates to core products like the Android operating system and its Gemini artificial intelligence tools. But at this year's event, the increasing antitrust scrutiny over Google's business practices will also be looming large. Ara Spitzer has more from Silicon Valley.
Google is getting ready for its annual developer showcase, Google I/O. But the company, whose influence has been so profound that dictionaries officially added its name as a verb, is also facing some of the most significant challenges in its history. Regulators around the world are taking a closer look at some of its business practices, which are deemed anti-competitive, as Karina Montoya, a policy analyst at Open Markets Institute, explains.
The major concern is Google's outsized power to control distribution and monetization of information on the open web.
In the past year, U.S. judges have ruled that the company maintains monopolies on internet searches and digital advertising.
its ability to have essentially killed competitors on the search market, and also its ability to have coerced and at the same time, by that effect, kill competitors in the digital advertising space that connects publishers with advertisers.
The European Union has already fined Google over $2 billion for favoring its own comparison shopping and search results, and over $4 billion for compelling Android device makers to pre-install Google apps, with courts upholding both those rulings. In the U.S., the so-called remedies trial for its search monopoly case is ongoing, while the digital advertising remedies trial is scheduled to begin in September. Judges in those cases will consider what measures are appropriate to address the anti-competitive behavior. The Department of Justice has proposed measures such as forcing Google to sell off its Chrome browser and Android operating system, as well as to divest from parts of its huge advertising technology business. Advertising accounts for more than 3/4 of Google's total revenue, which last year was around $350 billion. A major battle is shaping up. Google has called the DOJ's proposals extreme and said it plans to appeal the rulings. Some experts, such as Adam Kovacevic, CEO of the tech industry group Chamber of Progress, believe overly punitive measures will do more harm than good.
Consumers could actually face negative consequences if the government responds to some of these actions by breaking up Google or altering its products in significant ways.
Whatever happens with Google's legal situation, there are those like Bobby Zhou, Associate Professor of Marketing at the University of Maryland, who believe the advertising marketplace of the future should feature more choice than what's available today.
Ideally, I want you to be able to go to Marketplace 1, Marketplace 2, Marketplace 3, all of which have some reasonable access to many, many different publishers, okay? And then they have to compete on their services. They have to compete on their prices.
That scenario would change the calculations for the advertising model that's largely responsible for funding the innovations in AI and other areas that Google will be showing off at its annual developer conference. Ira Spitzer, CNA, Mountain View, California.
And that wraps up East Asia Tonight this Tuesday. Don't forget your headlines anytime at cna.asia. We're also on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for watching.